right, welcome to solving absolute value equations. An absolute value looks like this. Right, so if we were to say that the absolute value of x is 2, that just means that x could either be 2 or negative 2. An absolute value is simply a number's distance from 0 on the number line. So if you're thinking of it like that, which is how you should, because that's the definition, there are two numbers whose distance is 2 units away from 2, and that's, from 0, and that's negative 2 and positive 2. They are both 2 units away from 0. So we would say that the solutions here are positive 2, and we'd say that the solution is also negative 2. So we're going to be solving some that look a little more complex than that, but that's essentially the idea. Okay, this is the exact same idea as what we had before, however, it just looks a little more complicated. We're just solving it to get the absolute value by itself. So our first step is going to be dividing by 5, since that's not in the absolute value. And then we have the absolute value of 2 minus 4x equals 10. All right, we do have to have, since absolute value is a distance from 0, an absolute value does have to be equal to a positive number in order to proceed. So in this case it is, because it would make sense to have a distance that is 10. It does not make sense, for example, to have a distance that's negative 3. Distance can't be negative. So we do have to have this value over here equaling 0 or a positive number, since distance can be 0 or a positive value. All right, since our absolute value is by itself, now we can go into solving it. We saw earlier that all we did was put what was inside the absolute value equal to a positive or the negative of what's over here. So, absolute value is by itself. We can drop the absolute value bars and say, hey, what's inside the absolute value could be 10, or it could be negative 10. There's a lot of common mistakes that students make with this. The first one being they change something about what's inside the absolute value. What's inside here should not change. I did not make this a plus or make a negative out in front. I didn't do that. The only thing I said was, hey, what was inside here could have been 10, or what was inside here could have been negative 10, since both of those are 10 units away from 0. That's all we did. Now it's just simple algebra to solve. I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides and divide by negative 4. So x could be negative 2. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides and divide by negative 4. So x could also be 3. These are self-check. So if you plug back in negative 2 or if you plug back in 3, it will work. Okay, our second example here, we want to first get the absolute value by itself, so we'll solve by subtracting 9. We can see here that this by definition says the absolute value of something is negative 4. That means that whatever this distance away from 0 is would have to be negative 4 units. Distance cannot be negative. We can't have something that's negative 4 units away from 0. We cannot have an absolute value equal to a negative value. That does not work. Again, this number would have to be 0 or a positive number in order to provide solutions. So this does not have any solutions. You can either write out no solution, you can put this, you can say no solution, or the last thing that you can do is you can just write a bracket with nothing inside of it, since the solution is the empty set.